We're going to take what we learned in the example from Heidi, and we're going to start applying them, or the idea of domain and range, to a variety of graphs. This is our first graph we're going to look at. Now if you look at it, you might notice a symbol that looks a little different from what you've seen in the past. And that symbol is this open circle right here. That open circle indicates that you cannot actually get to -4. So keep that in mind as we get ready to write the domain and range. Remember, domain is from left to right. It's where Heidi would have started her walk to all the way to where she would have ended her walk. The range is from bottom to top. The range tells us how far down does Heidi go on her hike to how far up does she go on her hike. So for the domain, how far to the left does the graph go? Where would Heidi start her walk? The answer is at -4, so we write -4. How far to the right does Heidi go on her walk? If she were to walk along that graph, she would stop at +2. Notice we're moving from left to right. She went along the hike, she'd hike along this portion right here. So she would stop at +2, and we write +2. Now we're talking about domains, we put the x values, and it's going to be between -4 and +2. We do not underline the -4 because it's an open circle. Open circles means you cannot actually get to that number, so you do not underline it. The +2 we do underline because if she were to take her walk, she ended at this point, and that point's filled in. Anytime you have a filled in dot or circle, you use an underline. Okay, let's talk about the range. How far down does Heidi go in her walk? Well, she goes all the way down to -4, so we write -4. How far up does she go on her walk? Well, she goes all the way up to, as she goes down and then back up, the highest point she gets to is a +4. Since we're talking about range, we're talking about y, so we'll put the y values in between. And we need to decide whether we're going to underline the symbols or not. Since she actually reaches down to -4, it's use an underline. And since we have a closed-in circle, or a big dot at the other end, a point, we use a closed circle at the other end as well. Let's summarize. If it's an open circle, you do not underline your symbol when you're writing the domain or range. If it's a closed circle, you do underline it. If you actually reach the point, you also write an underline.